And we're live.
Hello.
Are we?
Oh, fuck, no, hold on.
No, we're not. Lies.
And we're live.
There you
Woot
Welcome
woot.
to episode 12 of the GSP podcast, folks. So just as usual, we have a few topics we're going to talk about today. We'll just crack straight into it, will we?
Yep.
So the first one came off a YouTube question, I think under podcast number 10 and 11. What to do on comp week as far as training goes? So I suppose we've all got fairly similar beliefs on this because we all do the exact same thing, obviously. And it's so actually there's a couple angles we can take here, right? Because if you look at Ireland's Strongest Woman over the weekend, we had yourself, Ayshea, who was only doing Ireland's Strongest Woman, nothing else afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have had, say, Mary, who was doing Ireland's Strongest Woman, and then INSF 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And more thinking down the road to some of the international comps as well. So, like, I think we touched on it with novices before as well. You can kind of treat the competition in that case, say as Mary's case, as kind of a training day, if that makes sense. So what was she done because she was doing a water cut and she had started a water cut Thursday with no sodium? That's what she cut the sodium on Thursday for a Saturday morning weigh-in. We couldn't have her train Thursday because it's unsafe. Obviously, when you're loading all that water, you're no electrolytes. So we said for her, she trained Tuesday, Wednesday, and then she competed on Sunday. So it was nearly like a full training week, essentially, because she had a lower body Tuesday, upper body on Wednesday. Nothing was too heavy, but it just kind of still gave her a decent stimulus to get sort of a full training weekend. And then she'll be back in tonight, actually. And she'll have kind of a full week this week, and then she'll have a full kind of taper down, deload week. For the INSF comp. Whereas for Ayshea, and I suppose this is probably what people are asking for really, is what to do when it's like an all-out competition, like what you're going to do for UK's next, what you'll do for OSG Europe. Obviously, them kind of comps are all-out comps. You're not training coming into them like they're too full on. They're 3-day competitions as well, so it's very, very full on. So like, what you guys will do is probably like, is it like an 80% or 70%, depending on the pressing event? We give you that for like a single. Just so we're feeling a heavy weight and we're not getting too far away from heavyweights, because you can desensitize to heavy weights on a press quite quickly. And the stronger you are, the less weight you would do on that. So like you guys might be actually 70% because you're that much stronger. Whereas the lighter athletes who aren't quite as strong or might be newer to the sport, I'd probably have them pushing 80 and sometimes 85%. And then after that, it's like squat and deadlift 30% for 3 sets of 8, which people think like might sound silly because that might have them down to like 50 kilo squat or something. But it's all about just flushing blood through the body to allow for recovery. And so you can stay mobile as well. I like the idea of the squatting comp week early because it keeps you mobile. It's very easy to stiffen up like. And like we'd usually do that if you're competing Saturday, might go Monday, Tuesday and have 3 full days off. But like them light sessions do enhance recovery. You know, that is the idea. It's not, they're not training sessions per se. Like you can have them done in 20 minutes. It's flushing blood flow, and you're doing some stretching mobility in between, and it allows for enhanced recovery essentially, like
and injury prevention.
As well. Absolutely. So that's kind of what we do as far as the training side of it goes. Like there's no accessories. It's literally just like 30%, say for a strongman military press. Maybe a 70 or 80% of an axle or log if that's what you've got coming up for a single, and then 30% squat and deadlift for 3 sets of 8. And if you're competing Saturday, we probably go Monday, Tuesday. If you're competing Sunday, we might go Monday, Wednesday, and have 3 full days off before the comp. But them 3 full days off aren't let's sit on the couch and do nothing. You know, like you do a lot of walking and stuff, don't you, and stretching them days. Active recovery. That's when the active recovery really comes in. Like,
I think mentally as well, to keep yourself occupied, so you're not overthinking the competition that's coming up and stuff, and mentally kind of draining yourself out.
Absolutely. Like what kind of stuff do you do then, say after them training sessions or besides them training sessions? What do you guys do to get ready for the competition? Is there anything else that you find works well for you?
I suppose I think just kind of more just like being in control of like my mind and stuff, just because like, you know, after if you're doing like a 12 to 16 week training block and stuff and you're kind of coming up to that last week, you know, definitely do a lot more kind of meditation and visualization without kind of like getting me like hyped up and, you know, just being at home and being like, oh, let's go kind of thing, like, you know, being a lot more relaxed about it. But I think at that point it's just more about just mentally getting myself, find that balance between like staying calm but like the appropriate level of being focused as well, and like build up that focus as the days come on. Because again, I just find, if you're just constantly like overthinking out in the week coming up, you're just kind of burnt out in the day. And I try to like not think about it as much as I can, but still visualize to a certain extent.
Yeah. Ayshea?
I suppose more recently I started swimming. I find that's a really good one for me. And I mentioned that before. So comp week, so this week I did it on Thursday, I went swimming.
Yeah.
Friday I went swimming. No, I didn't. Thursday.
I think Friday you just
twice
done
swimming, yeah. So
did you do hot and cold Friday or
I
something?
did hot and cold on Friday, yeah. So that's one, again, that I've spoken about before, where I find it's a real good one just for that focus of my time.
Yeah.
Not for, okay, the recovery side of it again, which is, you know, the jury's out on that, whether hot and cold is eventually. I actually didn't do cold, sorry, on Friday. This time I only did sauna.
Okay, so
I
just
didn't do jacuzzi,
just to chill.
So just to relax and to kind of give the body some ease, like. But that was it. So I normally either would do say hot and cold, or like I incorporated swimming more recently.
Okay.
Again, well, the visual imagery and visualization is something that I do anyway. So that would be, I suppose, creeping up a little bit more coming into the comp week and a little bit more specific, I suppose. Again, I do it without raising the adrenaline. It's just seeing positive outcomes, I suppose. Food-wise, I suppose, I just kind of keep it the same. Maybe up the carbs a little bit more, just make sure and trying to make sure that I'm on top of the hydration a bit better than I normally am, for those few days. And that's really it, I think.
Yeah, I don't like changing too much about even just my day-to-day routine. Like, you know, I'd like to even just if I can work the day before a competition or something, like I'd rather kind of do that just to kind of keep things busy. Yeah, keep the mind busy and just keep things regular. Like, because I kind of find that you see a lot of people, and I know myself, where it's like, all right, you know, it's competition week or even competition day, and I'm like, I want to try all these things, and then it's just like
it's not the time.
It's not the time.
Like comp week is not the time.
Not the time to do. And yeah, you do see a lot of people do that. Where it's like, oh yeah, I'll just quickly try this time, and I suppose you've all got to go through a trial and error stage, but you don't necessarily have to do that trial and error the week or day of competition.
Realistically, that stuff should be tried out for a training week, or you know, and see how it goes. Then not competition. You want to do what you know works. Like, and if what you're doing all the time is working for you, why would you change it?
Funny enough, actually, we're just talking about before we started. I actually on Friday got the nootropics, and it's like a brain stimulant drink, I suppose. And it's all natural stuff that's in it. And I had some on the Friday, and then I had some on the Saturday, because I also had an essay that had to be in for 10 o'clock on Sunday night after the comp. And my stomach was in bits, wasn't it, on Saturday? And I thought it was just I'd probably eaten something that was a bit dodgy. And I was like, well, I didn't really change what I'd normally choose when I eat. So now I'm kind of going, oh shit, did I do exactly what I tell people not to do? Oh, let's try this drink, and did it upset my stomach? So that's an interesting one.
You wouldn't have thought of it.
It didn't even dawn on me. And normally I change nothing. Everything remains very
it wouldn't be anything to do with performance, that supplement, as far as physical performance. So you were like, I'll just be fine. You didn't think of it.
I didn't think of it, but I'm kind of thinking now that might have been the culprit of why my stomach was so bad.
For anyone listening, a bit of context to this, actually, this is the Tuesday after Ireland's Strongest Woman today.
Yeah.
So when Ayshea talking about last Friday and over the weekend, it was during the weekend of competing Ireland's Strongest Woman leading up to that. And what about then mobility, like stretching, foam rolling? What do you guys do, or what do you like to do in the lead up to a comp?
I think it's important as well, like not to say increase your mobility and stretching the week of competition above regular levels, if you know what I mean. Like, I feel like whatever you've been doing up in that point, that's kind of where your body has developed for this competition. So it's kind of like, if you try and I find anyways, if you try and increase your mobility and go like deeper into your stretches and stuff, you're probably not going to be able to recover in time for the competition.
Well, that's another stress you're adding there, isn't it?
Yeah. On top. And again, that was something I have been guilty for in the past. And then like coming into competition, and my whole body just feels loose and disconnected. Like, so I feel like whatever like levels of mobility and stretching you've been doing, just kind of keep that consistent throughout. Like, so again, like if you feel like you're coming up to week competition, you're feeling very tight and stuff, well then, you know, maybe there's something to address coming up into the next training block. But at least with foam rolling, you can gain the benefits of increasing your range of motion without the actual kind of like elongation and separation of the muscle fibers. So you can still kind of reap the benefits of range of motion, but without losing the tension out of it. Like, that's why it's always good to be doing foam rolling before training, because you get better ROM instead of without losing any power.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, and you? Ayshea?
The same. I wouldn't do anything like I wouldn't be trying to do the splits because I'm bored. Like, do you know what I mean? Anything like that. It's literally just you're going through the motions of just keeping the body moving and that bit of suppleness in the muscle and a little bit of mobility. For me, foam rolling is more of a time to connect, to find out where I might be feeling a little bit tight or resisted, and just to work that out. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything. It's just I'm not upping it. I'm not doing less of it. I'm doing exactly the same as what I would normally do.
So basically, like what we kind of have here is we've got our light training. We all do our 30% for 3 sets of 8 type stuff to get some for blood flow recruitment, stimulate recovery. You continue your active recovery with your walking, a little bit of swimming. You do no more stretching than normal. Don't change foods. It's kind of standard enough stuff, really. I think the one thing we probably haven't touched on is sleep. And I would like personally say that I agree with everything you've said, but I think on the sleep, then I would change that and try and sleep more.
Sleep more, yeah.
Well, that would be,
I think everyone would agree with that. That's
100%.
kind of common sense. Like,
if you can
and reduce your stress as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of the other key things that will dictate how you perform as well. Because when you sleep, you recover, and when you're stressing, you're not recovering.
Because you're technically like in that last week, like you're still getting stronger by recovering from everything you've done over the last while. So you need to like try and optimize that as much as possible. Like. And I feel that's something that a lot of people don't realize on that week of competition. Your body is getting like stronger, and I think again, you kind of see people like their ego lifting before that because they don't think their body's prepared. But if you train right and actually just get your recovery done in that week, like then you can come in on top form.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, and it's all about being as recovered as possible when you get to the competition, so you can perform at your best. But if you're not recovered, you can't perform. It's a massive thing.
Would it be worth even maybe saying like like even the week before the week of the competition, like we wouldn't really do anything too heavy, depending on like if whether somebody had competitions coming up or whatever. But you kind of see like let's say if there's a last minute change of events or like a new event that's been put in, and say for example it was like a max lift, and you'd see people trying to like go for a really heavy single the week of competition, and then like absolutely like tear a hamstring or just fry themselves out. Like
there's nothing you can do about that, like that event change. Like if it's something you might need to familiarize yourself with, like get a feel of an implement. Like say if a log got thrown instead of an axle, like I wouldn't be doing much more than an empty log that week. And just getting a feel of like your clean and everything and your positioning. And sure, what else can you do? Like, because if you go heavy on it, you're just going to fatigue yourself, so you're not going to perform. I mean, I wouldn't be adding heavy work. Like I said, if it was last minute, the week of the comp, say, I might pick up the 52 kilo log there that's empty, and just do a few cleans, maybe some light presses, get a feel for your dip position, and that's it. Because you're not going to get stronger by pressing heavy. That's a certainty.
Gone past that point.
You're gone past that point, and all you're going to do is make yourself weaker because you won't be able to recover in time. So I mean that's all you could do there. If it was something that you're fairly familiar with and you don't think you need any like technical cueing or technical work on, I wouldn't fucking touch it. Just leave it off. Just leave it off. Yeah, absolutely. Like if someone was to throw a squat in or something, I mean, you can't just go doing heavy squats now because of that. Like, you should always be squatting. Should be some kind of squat in your training all the time anyway. So
I've seen a couple of posts recently where it's like, oh, I'm doing this thing because I need to have confidence in myself for what I'm doing, and I think it's a really poor way to look at it. When you have a competition coming up that is particularly, it's a big competition, and everyone gets nervous. Like I was bricking it. I don't know why people think that the more seasons you get, the less nervous you get. Like I'm sure Donna Moore and Andrea Thompson and all of these and all the lads, they're nervous before competition, but they don't necessarily go out and do like jump into comps 3 weeks out to prove to themselves they have confidence. Like I don't understand it. And again, you're changing something. If you've been working hard towards a competition, that should be your main focus and your main goal, and go from there with it. So changing things and just freaking out about stuff that you have no control over, I think is
useless.
You're absolutely useless.
From what you just said there about like people trying to like do things in the gym to gain confidence, I feel like from my own experience, the best place to gain confidence is actually at the competition. There's been a lot of times where walking into competition, I haven't been sure if I'm like able to do this weight or like move this object and stuff. And I'd be going up and I genuinely I'd be almost like doubting myself. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do here? And then you do it, and then lo and behold, you actually can do it. And I feel like that's the best place to gain confidence, because like that's where it matters most.
Exactly.
So it's like you're going to like especially if you're a novice or intermediate, or there's not that experience, you're always going to have that level of uncertainty just because you haven't done it enough. That doesn't mean that you have to like be lifting like past your limits in training. That's like, again, like just leave that, just do your work in the gym, and then just put the trust in the process, and then and in your body on the day. But I feel like that's the time where you need to be like learning about yourself and what you're actually capable of is on the competition day, and not so much in the gym. Like that's where you're building up your foundation, you're building up your central nervous system to do those things when it matters most.
And that lead up to the competition should be the recovery time. It should be your self-imagery, or visual imagery, getting your little routines. Like, and I think everyone has their pre-comp routines. I don't mind is packing my bag. I might pack it and unpack it and move stuff around. And, do you know what I mean? Like, get that to distract you. You'll find your little quirks. Like, people have special socks that they wear. Like Dave with his outfits for powerlifting. We all have our little things for pre-comp that distract us. From what's there. But we also need to not be distracted at times and think about what it is, what the great goal is, and what you're trying to achieve. So if you're so worried on just, I need to max out my deadlift or my squat or whatever 3 weeks before that competition, then your head is in the wrong fucking place.
Totally.
Sorry.
Totally.
Drop the old F-bomb. But it is. It's in the wrong place.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's it.
I think so, yeah. And then, like, I suppose, even just to go a little bit deeper into that subject. So, like, we've kind of touched on what we do on the week of the comp, just from a training perspective as well. Might be no harm to go through, like, 2 weeks out kind of a thing, or like we're looking at, say, comp on Saturday, Sunday. We kind of went through Monday onwards, but like even a full week from that comp, say our last training session here would be on the Saturday, that wouldn't be heavy either.
No.
And people, I think they might get that part wrong as well. We might do like an 80% deadlift for one that day, or might do some speed deadlifts. And then our events wouldn't be heavy either. We might do a light run through. Like, I'm thinking of the guys doing INSF next weekend. Some of them have, like, say if they're around 100 kilo farmer comp run, and a lot of them are getting 4 or 5 lengths of what it's going to be. I might have them do like 70 kilos for 10 plus 10 meters. And that's all it is. It's just a light run through of the events at that stage, because again, you need to be able to recover for the following weekend. So I think people need to kind of, and it doesn't just go light the week of the comp. It kind of goes light for 2 weeks to a degree.
You're tapering down.
You're tapering down for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's for when you really, really want to peak. Is that dog just far beside you?
The dog, right? Okay, look. So for anyone who's listening, right? We decided to leave the 2 dogs out for reality, right? And they've done nothing but fart since they come back from the kennels, and he just farted really badly and it stinks.
So you might hear a fart, and it was the dog.
And if you see my face, if you're watching this, it's because it absolutely stinks. Anyway.
So yeah, that's back on track here.
Yeah.
It's about 2 weeks of light training, except for maybe the overhead where we might hit one heavy session a week, and that's when you're really trying to peak for a comp.
That's what you want to be doing.
That's what you want to be doing.
You see a lot of people doing that wrong, like where it's like their last heavy week is literally the week before competition. Like,
and it's heavy. Like.
Heavy, yeah. You see a lot of people doing that, unfortunately.
And I think we've put this message out a few times, and it's you have to come into the competition as recovered as possible. And if you're lifting heavy right up close to the competition, you're not going to be recovered coming into it, so you're not going to have your best performances.
I feel like people think that like they could take 2 days of resting and the body's going to be magically recovered. And it's just like, I don't think they really understand the actual like damage you're doing.
If you've trained properly, right, for your training period, and you trained hard enough, you were begging for this break, right? And we were actually saying it with one of the girls yesterday who is fairly new to comp, and she was
Laurie?
Nell.
Oh, I was going to go on about Nell there.
Like Nell was like, "Oh my God, I'm sick of this. I want it to be over now." But you know what? Congratulations, you are exactly where you need to be 1 week out from competition, or 10 days. I said, and as I said, I think in the last podcast with myself and Mary, like for the OSG lead up, just looking at each other going, "We're sick of this shit. I don't want to do this anymore. You pick up the sandbag." Like if you're not feeling like that, then you haven't worked hard enough. You really haven't. You should be sick of it.
Yeah, you really should be. Yeah, as bad as it sounds, it sounds crazy saying that, like, but you should be mentally, physically, absolutely like fucking fatigued at this point. Like,
exactly.
Then like if you're coming in like 2 weeks out and you're still like wanting to do loads of reps and heavy weights, you've screwed up. Like you've screwed up badly.
You are in the wrong place right now.
Or you're oddly motivated.
Like you can see like how just like I know like it sounds bad again, but like when we have people in here come in the prep, like they don't want to be in the gym. They're fed up. You can see
the
it
end of it, yeah.
on their face. Like I
absolutely.
can feel it for coming like radiating off them. Like, but like again, like that's exactly kind of where you need to be. Like because like that's when your body starts to recover, and then when you feel fresh, then on the day of competition, you can appreciate that.
Oh, you've got that massive compensation effect, and you're strong as fuck.
You feel normal again.
Just back to say Ireland's strongest woman on the weekend. So Laurie's someone that has joined GSP from France a while ago. When she was first here for the first while, she had a deadlift program from a coach from France. So she was continuing with that, and we were doing the rest of her coaching up to the Strom Cup. At the Strom Cup, Laurie pulled 140 kilos for a 2 kilo PB.
Yeah.
Her program had ended with her coach, the deadlift coach. So we were taking everything on then, I think, are we?
Yeah.
But she had no deadlift program, and you were kind of like, what does she do? I was like,
No, she actually had a week.
Oh, she had a week,
We
was
looked
it?
at it and we went, that's too much.
fuck
To
you.
do.
Oh yeah, so we said, just
Yeah.
forget about it.
Don't do, she asked us, what do you want to do? Do your or do this? And we said, don't do that. Do what we tell you to do.
Yeah.
Which was
I think an 80% deadlift for one
80%
maybe
for
last
one.
week, and then this week 30% deadlifts. She fucking pulled 20 kilo PB
20
in a
kilo.
deadlift ladder.
Now we've
The
worked
rest
on
the
deadlift was
deadlift ladder.
140, and she pulled
Wow.
160 at the third bar.
and
Holy
we've worked on a
shit.
technique a huge
There's
amount
some,
of
yeah,
brace.
some technical
switch.
changes. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bracing
That rest,
being one of them.
if she had done the volume that had been prescribed with that other program, she would have been fucking fried. She wouldn't have done. And then she ran back because she left the figure eights like 3 bars behind her, thinking she wouldn't get to the axle. And I think she pulled the 175 axle about 2 inches off the ground.
Wow.
So we know
Wow. She's definitely,
there's
like,
more in her.
She's
Yeah.
fresh, like
Yeah, if she's fresh.
Yeah, because you can see she is definitely strong. Like,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
whoever's doing the deadlifting wasn't putting it in the right direction.
Yeah, so
That's
like,
great to see,
yeah,
like,
so
yeah.
yeah, it's like it was literally a case of doing fuck all since the Strom Cup, which
Yeah.
was 2 weeks apart, other than like a very light deadlift single.
Yeah.
And that was it, really. Like, and she focused on some of the
So I
events.
remember it
went
saying
up
to
for
me,
it, and-
is that okay? Is that enough? Yeah, that's it. Like,
That's
walk away
it,
from it. Now
yeah.
go do. And then
yeah, it
next
was
week we
probably
do
like
this.
110 or something like that, was it?
Yeah.
Or
I think it was 110 or 115 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
something very light.
112. That's what it
it
was.
was 112 for a
yeah.
single.
That's crazy.
That's the only deadlift she done in 2 weeks.
To
And then
PB on a fucking deadlift ladder, like, that is.
I was in
that is
awe. I was
crazy.
kind of going, holy shit.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
so crazy. Wow, fair play there. That's
Yeah.
great.
Great. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it's completely mad, isn't it? Like only for like they were calibrated plates. I nearly would have been questioning what's on that
Yeah.
bar. Like
Yeah,
it was.
but the other side of it was is her trust in the process, because it was very easy for her to come in. She'd only been with me for 5 or 6 weeks to go, are you sure?
Yeah.
But she trusted what we said, and
Yeah.
this is what she's reaping the rewards of that now.
Yeah.
So, trusting that process and going with something that's probably a little bit alien to
Really,
you,
totally. Yeah.
but really worked. Like
Yeah.
20 kilos of a PB
Yeah, it's
on a
huge,
deadlift,
yeah.
champ.
Yeah, I think that the big difference there was just that she just came in very well recovered.
Yeah.
There was the bracing thing as well. That
Yeah, there
definitely,
was technique work
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
done, but still.
yeah, 20 kilos is an awful lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mixture
Mixture
of
of
things,
both,
like,
yeah. So just a good example of doing.
Because she
Fuck
did a
all
cut
for a
as
couple
well.
of weeks,
Yeah,
essentially.
because she didn't do a cut for Strom. She did a cut for.
She did a water
She
cut,
also
yeah,
did
yeah.
a water cut, so into a weight
Wow.
category.
Yeah.
So
Which will lead us nicely on to our next subject. So one of our own asked this as well, is how to manage or maintain weight for a weight class athlete. So like you're looking at your 64s, 73s, 82 strong women, or in the men's 80s, 90s, 105s.
105s, yeah.
How to manage it and kind of what to do there. So, I mean, this could be a loaded question.
Yeah. Tough question.
So like, where do you start? Like, I suppose the main thing is being realistic about which weight category you belong in. Like if you are a 64 kilo woman and you're constantly 10 kilos overweight, you're probably not a 64 anymore. You're probably you probably need to move up a weight category. Like, but for this athlete, she kind of tends to have no problem getting into 64s. Like the big thing is not to be letting yourself get too heavy.
Yeah.
You do have to manage your weight all year round. So like, I think for the 64s, particularly, I'm going to say non-enhanced athletes, you need to really manage yourselves and not let yourselves get too heavy.
Yeah.
Because it is hard coming back down again, like, especially when you don't have a lot of body fat. So 64 kilo athlete should probably only be, and you know what, actually a good rule of thumb would be to be, I think we said this in one of the talking about water cuts in the last podcast as well, maybe not to let yourself go over 5 to 7% above your weight class would probably be a good rule of thumb. Depending on how much you lose with a water cut as well, and you're going to figure that out as time goes on. But it's just, the key there is not to let yourself get too heavy.
Yeah.
And know how much you can lose in your water cuts. And
Yeah.
like the thing is as well, like it's not letting yourself get too heavy, right? So say you're a 64 kilo athlete and you go up to 68, 69 at most, but you're on 1800 calories trying to maintain that. That's not realistic for an athlete.
No.
Because how can you get stronger at that?
Yeah. You shoot yourself in the foot.
You're shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah, you really do have to find a good balance here between being able to get enough calories in to recover and staying at a weight that allows you to get back down again. And then when you go into, like, I know we don't call it an off season, but say you go into people would call it an off season, it's not letting yourself bloat up and get really heavy there.
Yeah.
Because again, we have one particular athlete who did kind of do that over the winter period and had a really hard time coming back down. It was a 3-month effort nearly to get back down again, because again, like you're trying to stay within a weight category, but you go that 7, 8, 9 kilos above. It's so much harder to get.
So hard.
And then if you're trying to cut for 3 months, how do you get stronger?
Yeah.
You're in a deficit the whole time. You're fighting, trying to get stronger.
Yeah.
So it's kind of counterproductive.
Yeah.
So you really have to find there's a balancing act there, like, and it's trying to find that.
Yeah. I think as well, like knowing like when to use like certain nutrients as well. Like, so, if let's say if you, with your carbohydrates, try and plan on, say if you're having a meal earlier in the day, maybe you could avoid your carbohydrates there, but use them before and maybe after training.
Put them around your workout.
Put them around your workout, and then at the other ones it gets high protein. Even getting like some good fats in there as well, like not too many, but again you can use the fats like in a smart way to actually get energy from them. I think as well, just like just knowing like how to eat the right things at the right time.
Yeah.
Instead of just like not being very like thoughtful about it, because I know a couple of women between powerlifting and strong women who are about 64 kilos. And they eat about 3,000 calories a day, and which is, but at least it gives eating 3,000 calories that weight gives them the opportunity to even like take off a little bit and then still lose weight, instead of somebody who's like 1,800 calories. Yeah, like because 3,000, you got so much to kind of work with. But if you're like already at like the recommended amount and you're doing like high intense training, your body's never going to be able to recover properly from it.
No, and that's a really good point there. Like, if you can be as high a calorie as possible while not gaining a lot of weight, that's a really good place to be, because it gives you room to go down and not be completely starving yourself and depleting yourself.
Yeah, I think as well sometimes maybe I feel like maybe people's egos get in the way of them, in the fact that like they want to kind of have the security and safety of cutting down into like a much lower weight, when realistically they should be looking to go up a weight. So especially novice and intermediates, like they kind of get a little bit too 100%. Caught up about, I have to be in this weight division, because it's just like it's a bit silly. I think.
And that's like the conversation I had with this athlete as well that came later was that you might have a few more years in your weight class. Yeah. And eventually you have to go up, because this can't go on forever. Yeah. The ultimate aim, and she agreed, the ultimate aim is to get as strong as possible, to get as much out of your body as you possibly can. So eventually you probably have to go up. Yeah. You probably just have to bite the bullet and go up a weight class, or you're kind of going to get stuck where you are.
Do you see a benefit in sometimes going across to the next weight class for a period of time without going rogue on it? So if you're going 64 to 73, right, and playing those extra calories and getting stronger in there, and then seeing if you can come down.
Absolutely, but again, you have to be a little bit mindful. If you plan on going back to say 64 and you go up to 73s, you can't just go up to 75 and cut into 73 and then expect to get back down to 64 eventually, because you're gone too far then. But essentially, I think an athlete like that, it'd be no harm to compete at 73 in odd time, so that you actually get to compete while fully loaded of glycogen, not having done any depletion, no water cutting, none of that stress. How much stronger can you be at that competition? And then if you can maintain as much of that as possible while you cut back into 64, there's going to be massive benefits there.
Especially like, again, if you're a novice and intermediate, like you shouldn't be
worried about it too much.
It's different if you're like, say, if you've been doing the sport for a number of years and you're a competitive athlete and you've already built up such a massive foundation, then you can afford to kind of take those weight cuts. Whereas like if you're somebody who's starting off and you're just like trying to keep your calories down and staying in the weight class, like you're never actually going to be able to get stronger in the sport.
It's like I have a T3 powerlifter girl at the moment, and by the time she's done her next comp, she will go into juniors. And one of the things we're not even looking at is I know when you put near a weigh-in scale. Now she's not concerned about weight categories or anything like that. But if she wants to continue in powerlifting, obviously we're going to, at some point, she's going to have to look at weight categories, right? So it's now at this moment in time, what we're doing is because she knows herself, she doesn't do enough movement. So she doesn't do enough conditioning. So her thing is now I stick on the assault bike. And she just does some steady state, just getting her used to actually getting the body moving. But she's getting stronger and stronger. And you know what I'm talking about as well. She's coming on leaps and bounds. But I think it's that lack of stress for the moment to see where you are, see how strong you are here. We're not looking at gaining weight, but we're not also looking at restricting.
Just focus on stronger, getting stronger.
Because it's like we said earlier, the restriction stops you from getting stronger.
It does.
Exactly.
Or impedes you a little bit at least.
It does, totally.
And even if not from a physical, sometimes from that mental perspective, because if you're so concerned with making weight.
So,
You're not thinking about all the other shit you should be doing.
Sometimes you're like being overly enthusiastic can actually just stress you out too much and actually hold you back in the long run. I feel like kind of just like taking a step outside of yourself and actually just going through the motions of things can actually kind of carry you a lot further than forcing yourself to be doing something.
Absolutely. And like the other thing then, I suppose, that them athletes can do that's outside of their diet is look at their training. And eventually it comes to the point where you kind of stop doing hypertrophy work. You do very little hypertrophy work. You might just do enough to maintain your muscle mass, and you focus your training around neural adaptations. So you're trying to make the muscle as strong as possible without actually getting bigger. Quite hard to do, in fairness. But like it would essentially mean that you would do a lot of low rep sets, maybe a lot of speed work, a lot of power-based work and isometrics, so that you don't put on much muscle or any muscle, but you try and get the most out of the muscle you have.
Well condition it.
Well condition what you have, and like the hypertrophy type work you do would be really backed off to like minimal maintenance. That's another thing that an athlete like that can do. It's tough though. It's hard to do. It's hard to strike the balance, but it's something that like eventually you might have to look at doing if you really want to stay within a weight class. And like if you really want to stay within a weight class and you're kind of like you're pushing the boundaries of your body weight for that weight class, chances are you have enough muscle on at the moment, and you probably just need to make it stronger. But again, that's a really hard one to balance. Totally. It can be done. It can be done, but it's just
you have to be very meticulous about it.
Very meticulous about it. It's definitely doable. And again, like you should be. I think people should mostly be doing that with athletes that are probably winning national titles. Competing internationally in that weight category as well. It's not for the novices. No, because it's not allowing them to grow, get bigger and stronger, which ultimately the aim is, as we said earlier, to get as strong as possible and get the most out of it.
I feel like give them a bad attitude as well, like a negative attitude towards training and stuff if they've already like starting off in such a restrictive way. Like you're probably just going to lose interest after a while.
Absolutely. And I think that's for a more advanced athlete like. And again, like the person that asked this question, maybe for them, is kind of what I'm looking at doing over the next while, depending on how the weight goes over the next while as well. So that's another thing you can do there. That's as far as the training goes. But it's a lot of it's about managing and understanding that eventually you probably have to go up. And there's only so much time you can get out of your weight class, depending on how big you are. Like, but luckily there are more weight classes now. Like the 73s is a blessing for the women.
It is.
You don't have to go from 64 to 82.
Such a big jump.
I think as well, just to put it out there as well, is if I take Donna Moore as an example as well, and understanding that sometimes from either a health perspective or just a personal choice, like she came down from opens to under 82s, and she had to accept that there was going to be an element of strength loss. And that we've seen that. She's still phenomenal. But I think sometimes you have to look at it, okay, where I might have to lose some performance if I need to do this for, again, my own benefit or because I don't want to be in an open or a higher weight class. But she's still phenomenally strong and she's done it, without too much relative loss.
So Donna's kind of done as much as she wants to do in the opens.
Exactly.
She's done everything.
So she probably doesn't mind coming down to the 82s and losing a bit of strength for her health's sake, maybe as well. Because yourselves carrying weight is hard on the body.
Don't we know?
She's essentially a new athlete.
Totally
absolutely. Physiologically, everything about her is completely different. Like, so you can't really it'd be wrong for her to compare herself to her open weight to where she is now because she's a completely different athlete.
But then you can go the same thing with Chloe Brennan. Going up from under 64s to 73s. So, and I think Daisy Gillespie's doing it in naturals at the moment. She's gone up a weight category. So, again, look out there and see what's
See what other people are doing.
See what
Yeah,
other people are
totally.
doing. Okay, we said this before. Some people are doing crazy shit, so be careful of what you're looking at. But do have a look at those who are doing the same thing as you and just seeing how are they coping, what are they doing? Because a lot of these girls, I'm talking from a female's perspective, obviously, and the lads, I'm sure that they're doing the same. Document a lot of what they do. So have a look at it, and chat with your coach, and go from there.
Something came to mind there, but I think I just forgot it all. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, I think it's gone. Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah, but I think we kind of cover that as well as we can there. In fairness, like manage your weight. Don't let yourself get too heavy. You can change your training style, but that's more for the advanced athlete. And yeah, I mean that's kind of it. Like keep an eye on your diet all the time as well.
Yep.
It's not the most complicated, but it's hard to do at the same time.
I think when you talk about, you're juggling everything, aren't you?
Yeah, and it comes down to a real lifestyle thing as well. Do you want to all year round be watching your weight to be able to stay within that category? And some people just don't have the discipline for that, to be quite honest about it. Like, whereas other people have no problem doing it all year round. The discipline's there, and they'll just do it no matter what. Because what it could mean, like you've got a comp 10 weeks out, can't go for dinner with family, can't go for a meal with your mates.
I
Can't go for a couple of drinks. So do you want to deal with that in your life, or do you want to enjoy your life a little bit more? And maybe that's what
I remember seeing somebody we know who was getting prepped for bodybuilding comp, and I was in the back of the cinema, and I seen them come in with their girlfriend, and they had their cooler pack with them. So there was no popcorn. There was broccoli and whatever the fuck else was in
chicken and broccoli.
And that was what was in that cinema. So like that's
it's a decision you have to make.
It is
and like,
a decision you have to make.
if you're keeping it tight for a weight class, maybe you have to make them same decisions like a bodybuilder. You kind of are going to live a bodybuilder's lifestyle to a small degree. Something actually, just while we're still on that topic, what I wouldn't want people to do to maintain their weight for a weight class is tons of cardio. I've actually seen someone recently. I think they're doing a comp, and it looks like they're managing their weight for a comp, and they've done an hour of cardio on a treadmill. I'm assuming walking, could have been some running, I don't know. Like that becomes counterproductive to your sport. That is
especially
massive
sport,
especially strength sport. Yeah, that's a massive energy zap as well that you're taking away from your training.
Yeah.
So if you're in that position where you feel you have to do hours of cardio a week to maintain your weight for strongman, you're in the wrong weight class. Move up 100%. Like if you're doing 20 minutes here and there in the lead up to a competition just to drop an extra few kilos or to help you move some extra body fat, that's not too bad. That's okay. There's nothing too hectic there. But if you're hours and hours at it for an extended period of time just to keep in a weight class, you're in the wrong weight class. It's time to move up. Just accept it and move on. Anything else you want to add to that one there?
Nope. I think so. Good.
Happy enough with that one? Okay, and the next one then is post-comp blues. So we kind of chatted about this a little bit before the podcast. And I never really had an issue with it unless I had a really shit comp and was really disgusted with myself.
Emotional fool.
Unless I was disgusted with my performance. I never had too much of an issue with this, but
did the Ben and Jerry's help though?
Ben and Jerry, I'd eat that without comp. So but you guys, you get a bit of it, right? So on to you. Who wants to start? How to deal with the post-comp blues?
So I only kind of started noticing it, I'd say, like the higher I kind of went up in sport. Like when I was a novice, intermediate, maybe like a little bit, not so much, just because like I wasn't really necessarily taking strongman as seriously back then. Like, but I kind of found like the more kind of like serious I got into it, especially as well. I feel like after like UK's last year, it was like 16 weeks training for the one competition, and then it was over at the end of it, and I was just like, again, I feel like when you just put so much time and effort into one thing, and then it's finished with, it's just kind of like you're kind of just left, just kind of like wandering around in yourself, just like, okay, what's next kind of thing. But I feel like it's just kind of more. I feel it's in one way, I guess, it's a good sign that you've actually worked hard for something, and you actually, you put a lot of like heart and soul, and it's something that's very important to you. So it's not I don't see it necessarily as a negative thing, but maybe something that you could time for like reflection on like your performances, and what else could you do outside of your training as well as just focusing on your sport. Like,
I was actually probably more the other way. I think
Really?
when I was the newer I was in it, post comp, I'd say 24 hours. It'd be like the DOMs kicking in,
yeah.
but I would be so blue,
Yeah.
so like borderline depressed, and I used to put it down to the adrenaline dump. It was more so not that I was kind of lost and not knowing, oh my god, because I was when I first started off, I was doing so many comps. I think it was just that pure emotional release of like you're so het up and the whole day of competition, and then you do really well, and then if you don't do really well, it doesn't matter. Either way, it was just that come down.
Did you ever not do really well?
Sometimes once or twice, but that's another topic of like never being bloody happy with what you get, whether you win, lose or draw. But no, I think I don't get it so much now. I think it's more reflective I am afterwards. Like I think I said to you on Sunday evening after the comp, again, I had a little bit of an emotional dump of whatever, adrenaline and hormones and stuff. But I'm just really tired. I think I get more just kind of a bit tired and that's it. And then just getting on with it. But then again, I'm so busy now. It's like between one thing and another, I don't have the opportunity to kind of stop and go, oh, I feel a bit depressed or I feel a bit down about it. But I do. I think more of it was more of like this adrenaline dump. I would be so wired from the competition, and perhaps now when I'm in competition, I've learned to control that more. So I'm not on this constant adrenaline high. So it's not all gone, and suddenly I've nothing left, and I don't know what to do, and I've crashed. Like so, yeah. But I think dealing with it is just understanding it does happen.
Yeah.
And I know I've had people say to me before about it. I said, no, it's a natural thing. Just just write it out and get on with it. So
I would hang around for long for you.
only a couple of days, a couple of days.
You?
I'd say after kind of like 2 days, I'm kind of like, once I kind of get back into my routine and kind of like back work and stuff, then I kind of like forget about it. But usually, a day after competition, you're not really doing anything and you're just kind of like sitting there, just like.
Yeah, is that part of it? Is it that you're sitting at home? You're off work for a couple of days because you booked them off or whatever, and you're thinking too much.
I think that's what it is. You've got nothing for doing, but I'm straight back in Monday morning. I was straight back into the gym. And I had an essay to do, and I had this to do, and I had that to do. So it's like I didn't have time to go to reflect. Like I only just put a post today out about the weekend because I just.
That's quick for you.
You're only a week or two.
You still haven't done the OSG one, have you?
No. Yeah. But it is because there is so much going on. So I don't have a chance. But before, when I first started out, I was training and working. So I would have taken off like Monday and Tuesday, perhaps after the competition. So you're sitting there kind of going, thinking about what happened or what, processing. But it's that you're not kept going.
Yeah, totally. I think as well, like you compare it to like other sports where it's like they could be, having a match every single weekend. So it's like you've got that continuous, like
it's rolling.
Yeah, you're always kind of being like competitive, like whereas kind of like, again, I remember like with Kayla, who we trained with, said something that absolutely blew my mind. Was she just comes up, stands beside me, and she kind of sighs, was like, all this bloody effort and only for 5 minutes of actual work. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, like we're here for like 12 weeks at a time for one prep, and we go out and compete, and you're only up there for at most a minute for each event. And I kind of like realized that, and it was everything was kind of sinking in. I was just like, all the hours I spent in the gym, literally, and it's just like you're going up literally just for like sometimes even less than a minute.
Sometimes it'd be 10 seconds.
So 10 seconds, literally,
or something.
Yeah, and then it's just like that really kind of I think like put a lot of things in perspective. It's just like compared to like I played rugby for about 10 years, but like you just put so much into this kind of sport, and then again you're not getting that kind of like regular release of like dopamine enjoyment as you would from like competing. So it's just like it's all this builds up, and then it's all just kind of comes flooding out, and then you kind of start back to square one again. You got to start building it back up for the next one.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Big, massive dopamine hit there in one day that you've been building up for ages, and then you're dry of it essentially.
I think that's I think that's the one thing I found hard going from rugby to strongman was like I loved like being competitive every weekend, whereas like with strongman it's like you don't really get that chance. Like at most you might have like maybe a couple of weeks in between competitions, but you're never going to go from one competition to another like. So it's again like you're putting a lot more effort for such a smaller amount of actual like competitiveness.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
If
Yeah,
it's any consolation, like UK's going about 15 minutes of work.
15
They
minutes,
have to
yeah,
do 5 events over 3 days. So
Over
like,
3 days. Yeah.
yeah.
So it'll be a bit better, a
bit
bit more
more.
payoff.
Actually, by the end of that, you'll be like, I don't want to do another.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, that's it really. I suppose like you're kind of saying, let it pass. Am I right?
Literally, yeah, that it may happen.
happens.
Some people, not everyone gets it.
Or find a distraction.
People do
Yeah,
find a distraction.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
do you think someone should have something ready to distract themselves after a comp? A fucking new book or
Something.
fucking
Yeah, I think
don't know.
I think the worst thing is literally like to sit at home on the fucking couch watching TV. Because I know, like, fair enough, like you might be broken up, and like, you know, I feel like it's again like you're putting all this effort in and you think your competition's really hard, which they are, but then it's just like, all right, then the next day, you know, like I deserve to absolutely do nothing. But it's just like, if you're somebody who's doing strongman, realistically, you're never the kind of person who's going to enjoy doing nothing. And me personally, I know, like, from myself and the people I know doing the sport, and you're most likely somebody who's very, you know, like active and likes to keep yourself busy. So why, like, do absolutely nothing after doing something like kind of like so big? I feel like, you know, even just going, if you go for like a walk or something, just kind of go see friends or.
Well, it's very true, because like everyone of us that train here, everyone works.
Everyone works.
There's a couple of students, but like we're in college all day. So and then we spend all our spare time training. The nights off, you're probably prepping food and
stuff.
so
like,
there's always
or,
weekends we're running comps here, we're going to comps with our teammates or whatever. So we're always pretty fucking busy like.
I think even like you say, no, like yesterday. So yesterday morning, the person was supposed to be cancelled. So I literally went swimming, did a sauna, did a steam room, but I get off and I went and did something. And bearing in mind I couldn't swim much, I was wrecked.
You splashed around the pool.
I did 4 lengths and cabbed. But but just did that and then came back and I had work to do for my other job. So it just ticked through the day. Like, so that was it. There was nothing to kind of go, sit there and maudle about whatever, or feel, oh Jesus Christ, this is big adrenaline dump and
So keep yourself busy.
Keep going,
one way or another.
Just get going again. Get doing something.
Just get the body moving.
Don't sit around the house all day doing nothing.
And I think as well, even like recovery wise, I don't think it's a good idea to
absolutely
it's
after
terrible
competition to actually just sit there like a potato all day.
If I had done nothing yesterday,
go for
I
a
would
long
be able to move.
Yeah. Injuries kind of just that's where everything kind of sets in and like you get stiff and injuries kind of start kicking back up again.
That's why like we tend to get back into the gym pretty quick. Like
Tuesday,
Tuesday, maybe Thursday sometimes. But again, it's the same as like the beginning of the episode when we were talking about the 30% stuff. It's that again. Basically, just getting the body moving again.
Recovery,
very light recovery, and like get walking the next morning. Wake up and fucking go for a walk. Clear your head. I don't know. Do something, I suppose.
Reset yourself.
That's kind of the message, isn't it? So that covers everything that we were going to talk about in this episode. Anything you want to add, guys?
Don't think so.
No.
Covered it.
I think we covered it. Yeah. So like, subscribe, share, tell all your friends, tell your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters. Let them know about the good work.
There's so many questions you have.
Yeah.
So.
That's it.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right, folks. Bye.
Bye.